Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Master That English, where we understand, analyze and interpret the important texts and concepts that may be part of your English curriculum. Our topic for today is taking us all the way to Africa. And the work that we are going to analyze is a play written by Wole Soyinka titled A Dance of the Forest. So get your pens and notepads ready because here we go. Wole Soyinka. When we talk about the African culture, they have a way of living, they have a rich culture and heritage that we need to understand before we analyze this text. When we talk about the African culture, it includes tradition, languages, customs, arts, and beliefs of people all across Africa. Did you know that Africa has nearly 2,000 languages ranging from Swahili, Yoruba to Zulu? And is also known for music, dance, storytelling, and colorful clothing like kente and ankara. Festivals celebrate harvests, ancestors, and important life events. The African way of life focuses on community, respect, and tradition. People live in close families, help each other, respect elders as guides. Life is closely connected to nature through farming and daily activities. Knowledge and history are passed through storytelling, songs, and proverbs. Many Africans believe in ancestors and spirits, along with religions like Christianity and Islam, using rituals and ceremonies for spiritual connection. Food differs from region to region, but meals are usually shared and cooking is a social activity. Kind of reminds us of our Indian culture, doesn't it? And it's not very different because if we talk about the way Africans have a culture very similar to many cultures we've heard of, even in our Indian culture, we share the idea of a pantheon of gods in Hindu culture. We also believe in the idea of worshipping nature, and we also believe in the idea of building strong family bonds. We can see that this correlation also resonates with many indigenous cultures like Native American and Aboriginal Australian, who also believe in nature, spirits, and storytelling. Even in Southeast Asian and Latin American indigenous cultures, they follow similar ritual, festivals, and close community life. If we look into the overall experience, these cultures emphasize respect for elders, connection to nature, and shared traditions. But what we are going to analyze today is far-reaching than these beliefs that we have been standing strong for so many years. When we talk about the notion with which the culture is represented, the idea of pantheon of gods also relates to the Greek culture, where we notice that a lot of array of gods represent different divine, strong, natural powers. The gods also have a hierarchy, and every god represents a unique identity that separates it from the rest of the gods. These gods are also having followers, or people who are their divine devotees. They also believe in the idea of intervening in the human world to protect them. But in the African culture, and especially in this play, we are going to see the intervention of gods in a very different manner. They're not going to intervene to protect humans. They are going to be used as a mode of reflection of what humans and where they are actually falling in their mode of discourse. So if we talk about African culture, we see that just like in our Indian culture, just like there are different gods, like we have a god of thunder known as Shango in African culture, even in our Hindu culture, we have a god called Indra, who is related to the notion of nature forces. Gods are both representing human emotions. They also interact with humans. African gods are represented through a ritual, and the interaction with them also happens through this ritual, where priests are involved. Similarly, even in our Indian culture, we have a person who mediates the interaction between gods and humans. And this is what is the notion with which the culture seems to resonate a divine form of maintaining ethical behavior and social balance. Why are we studying this work in the first place? When we talk about this play, it was written at the time when Africa went through a colonial discourse of having the imperial control. So the people in Africa wanted to speak in their voices. They wanted to represent who they were. They did not want to be represented by a power that is not included in their culture. And that is where the notion of negritude came in. Negritude meant you are proclaiming and celebrating African identity. You're talking about what your rituals were about, what your traditions were about, and you were not afraid to hide them. So all writers spoke about this without having any inhibition. But down the line of talking, there was something that was missed out, which was the essence of African culture. This is where Wole Soyinka came up with the term trigritude. And these were the lines that Soyinka spoke of. A tiger does not proclaim its trigritude. He pounces. And certainly, that is what African culture meant. It meant that Africans should not glorify their identity in words. They should demonstrate it through actions, creativity, and achievement. As identity does not need constant declaration, it should be naturally expressed through actions and accomplishments. This is what trigritude meant for Soyinka. Soyinka believed in the idea that the rejection of African identity is but a criticism over the rhetoric celebration of negritude all the time. And that is why the essence of this play is very important. Because, believe it or not, this work was actually published at the time when Africa was celebrating its independence in the year 1960. This is why this work is considered to be a very complex plot structure, because it represents a very strong symbolic, mythological representation of the culture, but also of the things that Africans are failing to discuss about, which is the gray areas. We need to acknowledge them, accept them, and that is when evolution will start in the first place. So through this play, Soyinka challenges blind celebration of the past. He is emphasizing on the need of self-reflection over pride by mixing myth, history, and reality. As he says, the past must address its present. And this is the actual title that Soyinka basically wanted to say and speak of when he won the Nobel Laureate Prize in 1986. He spoke about what history really meant for him. The past is not purely heroic and admirable. We do make mistakes. We do have violence, and we do have moral failures. This central idea is what the play is challenging in the notion of blind nationalism and warning us about the romanticizing of history. So through the play, Soyinka critiques human hypocrisy, social injustice, as the characters ignore moral responsibility as society fails to confront injustice by using myths, spirits to highlight the issue. And this is where we are going to understand the setting of the play. Where is the play set? And why is the play considered to be a complex infrastructure of understanding what it really stands for? What is important to understand in this play is the setting is truly taking place at the heart of Africa, which is the forest. That is where nature lies. So the celebration of a ritual is going to take place in the forest in the play, and this forest symbolizes mystery and truth. And we notice that through the procession of celebration, we would get reflections of the present scenarios and also the past scenarios. And there would also be a sense, a spiritual world where judgment and revelation will help us to understand what exactly goes on in this complex structure. In the play, we combine Yoruba myths. We have human characters representing follies. We have spirits in the mysterious forest who are also speaking about the wrongs that humans have done. This is what makes the infrastructure very complex, because there is a constant interaction taking place at different levels. And somewhere it is difficult for us to understand where the plot progresses from one location to the other. We are brought in close proximity with the three distinct worlds: the world of the gods, the world of the nature, and the world of the humans. Let us understand the plot structure of this play by the famous Freytag pyramid mode. Let us start with the exposition. How does the play start? The play starts with the very intervention of what the ritual is about in the forest, which is an invitation to the ancestors. So it is believed that in the African culture, forest is the primitive location where the ancestors were called. They were given reverence. Just like in Hindu culture, prayers are offered to the god. And in the olden days, such rituals were also performed in proximity, in nature. So this is where the ritual is going to take place, where ancestors are going to be called. When we invite our ancestors, it is believed that our ancestors are glorious. They have an aura of beauty in them that is going to make the present world also glow with the good deeds that they have done in the past. But Soyinka does not play with the traditional routine of what the significance really is all about. He wishes to bring about a change. What we notice is quite the opposite. What we notice is that these ancestors who come in are not as glorious, as beautiful as we would expect the ancestors to be. They lack luster. And this is where the storyline begins. We do not know who these two characters are who have come from the past. And what is the case the old man is talking about in the starting of the play? We notice the lines where the old man comes in. This is the man who represents the past wrong deed and the past negligence. He starts with the line, "Will you take my case, sir? I thought we were expected. This is the place. Unless, of course, I came up too soon. It is such a long time and such a long way. No one to meet me. I know this is the place. Will you take my case? I thought he might. He considered it long enough. Will you take my case?" This is how the play starts. This is the exposition, where the character to be introduced first are these dead souls. And the mortals who do not accept these two dead spirits, dead ancestors, who do not give them the respect that they deserve, who do not offer the ritual that is supposed to be conducted because they do not have that aura or that glow in them. As the story proceeds through the rising action, we see that the dead man and the dead woman expose the wrong deeds of the characters. These are the mortal characters in the play, who are the chief characters that we get to understand. The mortals in this first half of the play include Demoke, Rola, Adenebi, and Agboriko, who are also visible in the past life or the past birth that we would get to see in the play, because the play shifts between the present scenario and the past history where actions have not been done well. And the forest is the place where the past and present are going to clash. This is where the judgment will take place through the ritual. And that ritual is the dance that carries the melody, the dance that allows the spirits to reawaken and expose the follies of what was exactly done wrong through the ages. Through the climax, we understand this note of climax, which is where the past is revealed and the dead woman is going to confront to Rola, exposing the repeated violence and the wrongdoings that were done to her in the past. History is going to repeat itself when we hear it from the voice of these dead spirits, these dead ancestors. And in the falling action, we notice that the mortals who are now here in this present life also are here because they have to come in touch and confront the wrong deeds that they have done in the past. They have to experience the guilt. They have to confess the wrong that they have done in this present life as well. And the spirits that are going to be awakened here are going to warn us about the wrong that is being practiced and the awareness that needs to be brought about for the change to come in. And by the end of the play, we are told about the things that we need to work on through the notion of the forest head, who is the person who brings in this celebration as a mode of progress and need for self-reflection, so that we do not celebrate the rituals blindly and accept them for what they truly are. So let us first begin with what do we see here as a notion of experimentation. The forest head is the person who is going to take the ritual and show us what exactly are the things that we need to come in tune with. He's the supreme head in the forest, who is disguised as the clerk of Adenebi. He is collecting the villagers to make them introspect and realize their mistakes. He is hoping that there will be some sort of hope and the helplessness that mortals are experiencing right now can be removed. There is also a spirit called Eroni, the one-legged messenger. This spirit is representing the spirit of the underworld, who is going to reveal us the truth about the four characters who are present in the present world and also the reflection of the past. He is also called Oro, the Yoruba god of punishment and death. We also have a trickster spirit, Eschiro. He is representing the wrath and destruction. And this is the god that is basically going to show us the wrong deeds that are done by a single mortal in the play, who kills his competitor just to go ahead in life. And the god who supports the murderer is Ogun. He is the Yoruba god of carvers. And Soyinka has symbolized Ogun almost like Prometheus, who is there to help the mortals at the time of their need. Similarly, Ogun also in the play supports the person who is his devotee. This devotee is Demoke, the mortal who is a carver in this birth, and he is going to support him all throughout. We also see some trickster spirits that interact with the individuals in the forest, in particularly Agboriko, who is a soothsayer. He interacts with the only spirit, Murit, who is a trickster. Murit in this particular play is like the person who can interact with the gods, because there is a medium with which gods interact with the mortals. So Murit is considered to be the midway passage who is interacting with the gods and giving the message of the gods to the soothsayer Agboriko, who is also along with the forest head in the forest while the ceremony is starting to take place. So all these gods hold a very important significance in the play, and they would be coming in between the human discourses just to tell us about the wrong that is being done, and the gods will also try to represent that notion throughout. And as the story progresses, we come in tune with the notions with which the mortals in the play are conducting the wrong deeds in the present. The first person that we need to understand here is the carver called Demoke. He is consumed with guilt because he has killed his apprentice Oremole out of jealousy. Being a carver, as per the African tradition, when a ritual takes place, a carver is supposed to design and build a totem. So the totem represents the glorification of the ancestors, the narration of the ancestors, the stories, and you carve different aspects and motives in it as a representation of the past. So that is the mode with which we interact in the play through the totem. So the totem is used here to build a connection between the past and present. But what is interesting to see is that this particular totem that Demoke is building is seemingly lacking any sense of positive representation. He is only representing things that are representing the negative side of the past. In his totem, he carves a very cynical side of a character, or a character that is having a negative light in the past, which is Madame Tortoise. He carves her in her totem. He is reminded of her while he's carving this lady who has done something wrong in the past. And her reflections are to be seen in the mortal character Rola, who he can immediately identify when he sees her in the mortal form, as a reminder of Madame Tortoise. This individual also has fears, just as he had fears in the past. He also has fears in the present. He has fear of heights. And because he does not have the potential of carving a big totem, in his insecurity, he kills his very apprentice Oremole out of jealousy. Since he has killed this particular mortal, who is also a devotee of another god, the god Eshiro, who is the supporter of this other carver, wants to take revenge because he has basically cut the araba tree that is representative of the god. And it being considered a disrespect to the god, this god wishes to kill Demoke right away for the wrong he has done. And this is why you see that Demoke is a person who is filled with envy. He doesn't really care about the notion of doing things with loyalty, honesty, dedication. So that is why Demoke says, "He was a man who grew taller than the trees, so I plucked him down. I plucked him down, and his head smashed on the roots of the araba."
Envy, but not from prowess of his adzi, as the craftsmanship displayed here truly speaks for itself in such a unique and very meaningful way.
Haunted by this act, he flees to the forest, unable to face his own totem carving without being reminded of his crime. "I flew to the forest because I could no longer look upon my work. I fled from the shadow of my hand." And that is what Demoke actually represents throughout this notion. The flashback of the past is represented by the three characters, the forest head, Agboriko, and an old man who is actually the father of Demoke. So in the flashback, we see the story where an old empire which belongs to Mata Karibu. And in this court of Mata Karibu, you see that the character Demoke is reincarnated as a court poet. And in this life also, you notice how he is a poet who does not care about his fellow mates, just like he did not care about his fellow mates in his present life. Even in the court of Mata Karibu, you notice that he does support wrong acts. So in the court, the king has a queen called Madame Tortoise. And when this lady demands of her cannery to be fetched on the dangerous rooftop, the court poet, just like he did it in his present life, orders his novice apprentice to climb up and get it. But because of the height, the novice actually fell and broke his leg. He did nothing and silently supported the emperor when he wrongly enslaved a brave captain. This brave captain is no other than the dead man. and killed his pregnant wife, the dead woman, because they refused to fight an unfair war. And this is where the sins of the present and the past are both very similar to the way they were in the present. There is a parallel there when we talk about this mortal, Demoke. The other character who also represents the negative deeds done in the past and present is the character Rola, who in the past is the queen, Madame Tortoise, the cruel queen, who uses seductory to tempt people. And she wishes to be obeyed because she is a powerful queen. Nobody wants to be disrespected. And that is what she expects out of everyone. But when the old soldier, that is the old ancestral spirit in the present and the soldier in the past, when he refuses to be tempted and take advances with this lady, she feels disrespected. And that is the reason why she avenges on him by punishing him. She asks him of being castrated and sold as a slave. All this just because he was an honorable man, a respectful man, a loyal man. This is the revenge that she throws on people who do not obey her, who do not respect her for her value that she has in the past. And this is what she says.
What are you? Men have killed for me. Men have died for me. Have you flint in your eyes? Fool, have you never lived?
Madame Tortoise is used to not getting rejected. She is spiteful and insulting when soldier is resisting her. She's even ordered the killing of the pregnant wife in front of him because the young boy's death is just a way to get her payback. And in the present, this Madame Tortoise is the present Rola, who is as selfish and manipulative as she was in the past. She also uses seductory here in the present to tempt old men and young men. She considers this as a business transaction. She doesn't care about the men's emotion. She just wants to use them at their best advantage so that she can mint money from them. She wants them to feel jealous, have suicidal tendencies. She also wants them to murder each other. She wants all sort of negative emotions out of men. She doesn't feel any guilt and she doesn't run away to avoid trouble because she has no regret about her actions. When Adenebi in the play, who is another character, constantly disrespects Rola for driving men mad and ruining their lives, she considers herself not guilty of this act. She says there is nothing wrong in this because just like a businessman is very clinical in his actions, so is she. This is where she says,
when your businessmen ruin the lesser ones, do you go crying to them? I also have no pity for the one who invested foolishly. Investors, that is all they ever were to me. And
through her character, we can see that Soyinka condemns uncountable desires and communal toil. And this is what Rola actually represents, the wrong deeds, the immoral actions that seemingly are like a business transaction in the world today. Then we come to the next character, who is Adenebi, who is definitely shown as a corrupt modern official of the present. He is confronted by Obanerjee, who exposes that he is using his political power even in the present and not disclosing the wrong deeds that are being done. He talks about a modern vehicle, the incinerator, where almost 65 people are killed by this particular incinerator because there is a sort of disclosure of truth that is done. The secret is concealed because the particular vehicle can only carry few people, but deliberately just to make money, this urban device or urban machine has been used to get more money by having more people in the vehicle. And that is how so many people die, because the machine cannot take in many people. And it is almost like a utilitarian mode with which people in the present are leading their life. They want a modernized world, an urban world. They don't longer want to connect to nature as they did. And that is the reason why he is constantly in the present also. Adenebi is deflecting from the blame by claiming that he only followed procedures and just signed the papers. He had no moral responsibility of disclosing what was the wrong, illegal action or truth that was being disclosed in the process. Even in the past, you notice that this very person, Adenebi, is a court historian in the court of Mata Karibu. And he also does the same corruption even there. He accepts the bribe in which the soldier has to be wrongly claimed, accept the slavery. He is totally accepting every wrong deed in the past just as he did in the present. In this way, Adenebi definitely does downplay his role in the deadly incident of past and present. He treats a serious crime as a normal bureaucratic act. Such an attitude shows moral blindness. Even to be silent is not considered a positive remark as per Soyinka's notion. He does not do a crime, but he conceals that crime from being done. And this closure, concealment, is what Soyinka wishes that people should not practice, and truth should be revealed for what it is. Which is why Soyinka critiques the careless officials who hide behind the duty, as he reflects corruption in the authority, and he refuses to accept the responsibility for which he has been given the role. And in the similar way, you notice Akbariko, who was also considered to be a soothsayer in the past life. But even today, seemingly Akbariko is the only character who wishes the characters to move them and make sure that the ritual happens. He constantly uses a proverb and adds the lines, proverbs to bones and silence whenever he uses it, as if he is representing the dead people and also the people who are alive. Because there are certain things human beings need to learn about their culture, certain kind of values that we need to instill. And that is what Akbariko represents in the present and also in the past life.
If the wind can get lost in the rainstorm, it is useless to send him an umbrella. Proverbs to bones and silence.
Akbariko also tries to connect with the spirits through the trickster spirit, Murit. And this spirit is seemingly a drunkard. It likes to drink just like the mortals. It seemingly does not have a logical mind and a mode of representing itself. Akbariko is also very helpless in many places because in no way is the ritual taking place fast in the play. There is a lot of delay through the course because it almost seems as a mode of revelation first, where we see the past first and then gradually as the past is reflected through the act of the ritual, we also get to understand where exactly are things going wrong. Even at the time when the ritual is starting to take place, it is important to see how different spirits awaken up. There is the spirit of the earth, spirit of the air. All these spirits are speaking in vague words. They do not seem to have a mode of representing things in clarity. So when you read the play, you almost are confused about what are they representing because they speak in riddles. But the moment the ant leader comes in the lamplight, you understand that the ant leader is the only individual who is able to represent things for what they are. This ant leader definitely does represent the notion of what is the collective organized memory of the wrongs. His voice makes us aware about the consequences and the harm that are caused by human actions. Whereas the spirits definitely seem more vague because they only represent ancestral and mythic forces, like the forgotten past, the abstract moral failings, and now the half-child only emerges in the ritual in the end. He says, I'm a victim of the careless stride. I know the path was thin, a trickle in the marsh. Yet we move the roots, our bellies to the ground. We are the ones who remembered when nations build. So of all the spirits, it's basically the ant leader who knows what happened in the past, who knows the struggle, which is why his lines make the most sense in all the ritual that is taking place. But it is important to understand that when this half-child also emerges, there is a seeming delay in actions. There is a seeming dance that takes place that is not really fulfilling itself in its totality, because that very point when the half-child leaves, the three triplets, the first triplet, that represents itself in a riddle by saying that I am the end that will justify it. What end is the triplet talking about? The second says, I am the greater cause, standing ever ready, excusing the crimes of today by tomorrow's mirage. Hungry I come, hearing for a feast for the dead. Am I expected? And lastly is the third triplet. I find I am posterity. Can no one oversee on what milk I have been nourished? So the three triplets who come after the half-child are seemingly very important, because where one represents the end, that is the wrong that needs to be interpreted by us, that we need to justify. In the play, the end are the ancestors who are looking for a justification for what really went wrong, because of which they don't seem as glorious as they were, which is what the third triplet is actually saying, that the greater cause, whatever we are doing today, if this also keeps repeating, we will constantly keep showing the mirage or the exact replication of whatever is happening in the past and the present. And posterity, which is what is the continuity here, that is the nourishment that we are giving. If this is what we are going to give, then sooner or later, this will go on for a very long time. And this is what we have to understand throughout the ritual, that the triplets almost give us an actual story of what this milk is all about, this nourishment is all about in this play. That we need to understand where the wrong is actually happening. The wrong is in the actions that we are conducting today, which are not representing the truth for what it is. And which is why everything is going wrong. Nobody is accepting the truth. Nobody is understanding where they are going wrong. And that is what we need to understand. So when we read the play, the character of Demoke, who accepts the fact that there is a need for me to understand where I went wrong. And I think, more than his words, it is the act of saving the half-child in the end that makes a victory for him. That is the only mode of redemption that Demoke serves in the end of the play, which we understand is very important as the ritual is taking place. And to a certain level, we also try to understand the various things that are taking place alongside the confusion that is taking place, where the past is in the court of Mata Karibu, the present is in the mode of where humans are accepting their guilt, the wrong that they did, whether it is Demoke, the carver, who did the wrong of killing his friend, and whether it is Rola, who is just as enterprising as she is today, whether it is Agbariko, the soothsayer, who, although represents the notion of what the things are, but to a certain extent is not really accepting the notion of the wrong that is being done. We should definitely pay attention to the line that Demoke says in the end, which is, "And the lightning made his bit in vain. When she cooks, is the cloud ever set on fire? I lodge below with the secrets of the earth." What are these secrets that Demoke is talking about? What is the darkness that we can see over here? Is justice really given to them? Or this wrong deed followed time and again? The flashback of the past does remind us that Mata Karibu and Madame Tortoise are constantly doing the wrong to humans. Is this wrong the glorious past that we are talking about? The suppression that is done to the dead woman for not giving her the vital life that she deserved, is that injustice and suffering enough? Are we doing the right thing in the past as we are representing the present, where we are killing innocent people through the incinerator that was wrongly used, where victims had wrongly lost their lives through the process? This is why the forest head says they are the same in every age. We are repeating the cycle. The act is never finishing, which is why there is an important significance of dance in this play. There are different sort of dance. In African culture, dance is a representation of increasing the frequency with which you are interacting and connecting with the ancestral world, with the world of the gods. There is a mass dance, firstly, that is used as a mode of spirits performing the rituals. This is very important because this dance, the mass dance, is helping us to identify the past crimes that the four humans were doing. This dramatic play helps us to understand where exactly is the negative force being released. What is the thing that we need to come and confront? We also have a cosmic dance. This is definitely larger than life. This is where we show the conflict that is between every individual in the play. Whether it is the gods, the humans, it is in the past or the present, we come in tune with the justice, punishment, and fate aspect in this work. How the gods Ogun and Eschero as gods are also intervening and repeating the similar pattern of humans, which is the idea of avenging, the idea of control. Is this what the cosmic dance is all about? We also have a dance of sacrifice in the end. This is a special part of mass dance where you come in tune with the story of the dead man and the dead woman and the innocent people being killed. We also see the half-child here who represents the symbolic weak future, the sad representation of how things are being kept. So, is there truly a redemption in this play? When the half-child is tossed between the gods Eschero, the vengeful spirits, who wants to punish Demoke, and Demoke, who is responsible for the death of Oromol, he has been reduced to the length of a rubber tree. The tree is marked down for Oro. My body was stripped by the imperious hand of Demoke. My head was hacked off by his axe. That is what Eschero says. He wanted to punish the human race by taking the half-child. So he punishes Demoke towards the totem tree. Demoke does so. Eschero lights it from the below and Demoke falls. But again he is saved by Ogun. In the end, the gods Ogun and Eschero argue what should happen of humans. Demoke barely escapes death, but humans do not learn from their mistake. And that is what we need to understand, is this is the guilt that we are talking about. In the past, every character needs to accept it. This is the reason why the final dance is a ritual dance, which is connected with the natural notion of human spirit's nature representing the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. This dance is an interaction between the past, present, and future. It is revealing the cycle of human mistakes and moral struggle. The dance is symbolizing life's continuous struggle between good and evil. And this is what we need to learn, that nature and spiritual forces shape the destiny of humanity. The message that the forest head gives in the end is what human beings choose to make of their past is what matters. So, what is the choice that we are making? The future is not a gift, it is a task. This is why the half child represents a damaged future due to the historical violence that is done to it. The child also suffers because of the past generation. It shows the deteriorated progress. The half child is a bhikkhu that is neither alive nor dead. That is why it is the unborn future. The half child is also used as a metaphor of continuous progress, emphasizing that it is important to understand one's history for a strong future, particularly within the African diaspora. I'm reminded of the concept called Sankofa. It is a Ghanaian akin meaning, go back and fetch it. I think this is what Soyinka is trying to represent in this play, that we need to look back in order to move forward. Because even in this Sankofa notion, it is symbolized by a bird looking backwards while moving forward with an egg in its mouth. So, in this story also, we definitely are understanding the present events by having a look at the past wrong deeds. That is where the connection is building. So, even though it seems confusing and difficult to understand because of the cultural representations and proverbs that have been used as riddles, what is important to understand is the essence with which it is being constructed. Forest is very important in this play because this is where all the celestial beings, the humans, are all coming together to represent the truth for what the things are. And the forest spirits are also telling us a lot about the notion with which the moral order should be represented. This is why the forest head becomes very integral. Eroni also says that who will dwell in forest knows the secrets of men. Eroni, being the messenger of the forest head, suggests that spirits see the truth about human behavior. And this is what we need to understand, that Soyinka uses characters like Eroni that resemble half human and half animal beings. They represent a close relationship between humans and nature, just like Murit does it for Agboriko, for telling him about what exactly is the course of events that are taking place. And I think by the end of this play, we need to understand the notion with which we are not talking about freedom. We are talking about the damage with which we are not understanding the essence of our past. The negative colonial impact is present, because of which we are criticizing it in this play. But what we are really trying to focus on are the wrong deeds that were done in the past, such as slavery was considered a very recurrent practice that has been followed since generations. And I feel this is what we need to overcome, is to understand the wrong that was being done, which should never repeat itself. And definitely we also get to see the new discourse with which Soyinka writes this play, which is not through the European discourse, it is through the African storytelling. The characters and everything that he represents shows the African way of life. And yes, this play definitely does represent a serious note about self-examination. To a certain extent, just like other African writers like Chinua Achebe does in his Things Fall Apart about portraying the past with sympathy, Soyinka also shows that blind glorification is not enough. We need to go ahead of this. We need to examine human responsibility and the consequences of past actions. Because if we are blinded to that, there is a chance that the new generation is going to repeat the same actions yet again and give a blind eye to it. And this is why myths and human spirits are important, because each spirit, each cultural representation tells us something about a story, and that story need not be always positive. It may hide certain dark secrets that we need to come in tune with, in touch with, so that it doesn't repeat. Because the more you express the wrongs in its bare front, the more are the chances that you will evolve as a better human being. And that is what is this play all about. Now that brings us to the end of this lecture. I hope this complex plot and the analysis that we did today helped you in understanding where exactly this play is holding a deep significance in the literature of African canon. And definitely stay tuned for more content that is going to come. I hope this was enriching for all of you. Until we meet next time, this is me, Karishma.